everybody, this is John for MTG Nexus coming at you with a little bit of a night that was supposed to happen last night, but wasn't feeling too great after work last night. So we are back finishing up Bosseidon's Boros Burn list. When I asked for burn lists, this was the one he provided. And then we're going to be moving on to Oops All Spells, which was Sodek's winning list from this past weekend for the Modern Premier event that was going on. Qualifies people for an event to qualify for the mocks. So we're going to be trying out those decks hopefully tonight. We have 2 matches to finish in this league. As far as Bosseidon's list, as a friendly reminder, if you do like red-based modern content, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, giving us a follow here on Twitch, as we're going to be the most informative lightning bolt-based channel on YouTube for modern, with a little bit of other stuff like Oops All Spells that we're playing tonight. So what's going on? What's special about Sodek's or about Bosseidon's list here with Burn? Playing copies of Seal of Fire, which are kind of a holdover from the Incinerator builds. Once again, kind of plays to one of the weaknesses of Burn, which is turn 1 on the draw against 1-drops. So things like Elvish Reclaimer, Goblin Guide, Arbor Elf, etc. Gives you another interaction for those creatures when you're playing a little bit more of a control role. No copies of Riftbolt. Once again, you are playing with Roiling Vortex in the sideboard. Does make that card a little bit awkward sometimes, so he just elected to cut it from the deck entirely. And then beyond that, has a 3/3/3/3 whatever split on Skullcrack, Searing Blaze, and Lightning Helix, while keeping the 4 copies of Boros Charm and Skewer the Critics. 20 lands. He's only running 4 Canopy lands as opposed to the 5th one that I sometimes run with Fiery Islet. And then the spice in the sideboard. If you want to see these cards in action, Hushbringer was really clutch in our win against humans. Also, Surgical Extraction, a tech kind of attributed to Bosseidon, especially against decks like Dredge and Oops All Spells, as well as Uro Piles. 3 copies of Smash, 3 copies of Path, nothing too fancy there. And he's electing to play a copy of Luris of the Dream Den in the sideboard, which is fine in a lot of spots. Gives you a little bit of a light grinding power, especially when you're forced to take the control role in some matches, which we are forced to do from time to time. So, that said, let's hop in the last 2 matches. I've had a little bit of a rough league so far. We ran into Mono Red Prowess in match 1. One of the weaknesses of this particular build is we're not packing anything like Core Firewalker, so we don't have a whole lot for the Prowess matchup. We beat humans, and then lost to Dredge. Dredge is just kind of a rough matchup for Burn, even in its kind of neutered form, unless you're packing enough heat to deal with it pretty much. So, quite a bit of competition here up the top. M. Hayashi, Dr. Queller, Nahuel, Aspiring Spike kind of climbing the ranks there. So, no, Dredge isn't particularly popular right now. You're more likely to run into Oops All Spells than you are Dredge, especially since Sodek, who is one of Timu. Timu is usually on some type of blue-red based thing. I think last list I saw Timu, he was on some type of Kiki nonsense. So, some type of Kiki Boyle nonsense, I think, was the last time I saw the list he played, I think, this past weekend. Kind of a name I recognize because it's one of the ones I follow on Twitter. But no, Jenkins is not particularly popular right now. It's mainly, you're more likely to see Oops because it's more explosive. But it is a deck you're still going to see from time to time. Like, I didn't see it for probably between 100 to 150 matches, and then I've seen it 2 leagues in a row with 2 different decks. So, you know, you're gonna run into some different things sometimes. This hand's pretty reasonable, even against a blue-red pile. You know, we have 2 creatures, which they don't always have answers for. We have a bolt and such, so let's see what our opponent is on. Yep, unsurprisingly, they're on some type of blue pile. Notably, they are not on the blue-red Kiki Boyle tech, which was probably tech for the Spell Snare card to be aware of. Sure, Flame Slash, sure. So we kind of get to do the thing and do the thing. Get to play around Spell Snare here. Unfortunately, if they are on Kiki, this is going to be a bit of a rougher matchup because we're going to have a hard time attacking through a 2-4, or a 1-4, I should say. It looks like they're on a more more typical version of. So the irony here is we get to play around Spell Snare like hardcore. Kind of incentivize our opponent to trade their thing in the ice, and if they don't, then they'll leave them dead to basically any spell. Okay, so I'm perfectly fine with that. Means they're not going to be able to pressure us. Snapcaster Flame Slash, sure. Well, holding up Spell Snare. Yep. Going to pass the turn. Probably cast Searing Blaze at the end of turn. Even if we're not going to get the maximum value off of it. We could wait until we hit a land. Okay, should have cast it at the end of turn, I guess. Now they could potentially snap snare. Okay. Remand being a little bit obnoxious here. Gonna do it again. This is just going to force them to burn that snare, which we know they have. Let's get the Snapcaster Mage out of there. Not that we couldn't have done that at any time, but maybe. Unfortunately, we don't have anything to take advantage of that. Now we play the waiting game. Be surprised if they like Snapcaster Spell Snare here. Just hard cast Force of Negation. Okay. So we could try to go for lethal here, but I think I'm just going to play out Eidolon. Eidolon resolves. It's likely just die to a bolt here or something. Yep. Oh no, they have Magmatic Explosion. Magmatic Sickle, whatever the card is. Card I've played before out of... Try for Boros Charm here. Hopefully they don't have another Force of Negation. Alright, pass the turn. Sure. Do another snare. Solemnity Vision? What the heck is that? Oh, okay. Well. So we're probably dead here? Gee, thanks, War Dog, thanks. Always appreciated. Going to fetch our other white source here. Doing this to try to draw out the Snapcaster Mage. Did we get there? It's a mixed bag right now. Surgical Extraction's interesting. I'll get into that here in a sec as soon as I finish sideboarding. Don't think we want Hushbringer. We might want some number of Path. Searing Blaze is particularly bad in this matchup. Do I bring in some number of Path for... I think I'm going to bring in 2 and 2 in case he has Dragon's Claw or Platinum Empyrean. It's kind of a risky play, but is what it is. Probably cut a Seal of Fire. Could bring in Surgical, but... So long story short, my scheduling salaried manager is out because of medical reasons. And they've done a whole bunch of shifting around at work. And nobody wants to take responsibility for our schedule, so they're just letting the computer do it. And for some reason, I'm being scheduled outside of my last submitted availability. They're scheduling me on my old shifts, which is 4 to 1, which is something I haven't done in probably okay. So we weren't beating Flusterstorm. I was trying to play around Bolt there, but I guess they had Flusterstorm. Sure. We are flooding out very, very hard. Not good for the home team. Basically, they scheduled me 4 to 1s for 2 weeks in a row when I'm not supposed to be scheduled outside of a 1 to 10 time slot. So I'm none too happy with work right now for various reasons. Riverglide, Pathway, and Spirebluff Canal. Sure. Trigger, force of negation. Sure. So cast Lava Spike here. So basically I'm scheduled hours I'm not supposed to be scheduled. And no one seems to want to fix it. I'd love to draw a Nautilus in here. Okay, wow. We only have 2 paths in our deck and we've drawn both of them. Seems good. So for those of you wondering why I brought in Path, I brought in Path for a Thing in the Ice in case it flips. Or just to deal with it cleanly. And also to deal with Platinum Imperion package, with which some of these decks run. It's a package that I've seen both Jacob Kaminsky when he played the deck and Aspiring Spike run, so it's not something I wish to dismiss, although I may have overboarded for it. Let's continue to pass here. So we did see our opponent play a island in game number 1, but they haven't. Have they shown us any fetch lands? Don't know that I want to play this island here, but don't really have a whole lot of else going on with our hand. Mana Leak, sure. Yeah, we won game 1. Which is good because we're about to lose game 2 badly. This matchup is always close. Especially when there's a good blue-red mage on the other side. Doesn't help that we flooded out a little bit too. But these Path Exiles are basically dead. I'm going to fire one off here on Snapcaster. I think I'm willing to take one more hit here because we can likely respond to Bolt, Snap, Bolt with... Sure. I think they were hoping to draw out a Path. Actually, I should probably Helix first. Don't like pointing my burn spells at their threats, but have to put this on top, I think. Crap, I should have put Luris in my hand there. Don't think it really particularly matters, but have the Bolt. Should have put Luris in my hand. So I'm going to bring in Vortex here. Maybe go down the seals. I think we go down one smash. I'm still going to leave one in just in case. And then I don't like that they have Snare floating around their list, which is actually a card a lot of blue decks have moved away from. But against our deck, it's particularly good. This hand's pretty reasonable as long as we don't float out. And we just hand them a painless land, because of course we do. They pitch a Snapcaster Mage. It's terrifying in some ways. There's no sense in trying to save this, because we'll just untap and Flame Slash it. I'm just going to Boros Charm while their shields are down. No Thing in the Ice on 2 is quite nice, so I'm just going to take this opportunity to put Luris into my hand and pass the turn. I don't think we really want to start playing chicken quite yet. So how's everyone else doing tonight? I hope everything is going well for everybody. Sorry I didn't get to stream last night. It was kind of a rough night. I'm going to go ahead and Helix here. Do I fire off Skullcrack? Yeah, I'm just going to fire off Bolt. Going to hold up Path in case they have TT here. Play our lands out because we don't have any blazes in our deck. Sure. Okay. Bolt, sure. That's good, Kroark. How are you doing tonight? Sure. Put it with a bajillion cards in hand. Take this opportunity to resolve Luris. Back Goblin Guide. I know they have the Flame Slash, so at minimum, yep, they just have the ability to answer them both. Well, I appreciate that, but once again, most credit goes to Bosseidon on that one. Kind of awkward with these lava spikes, but I think we're going to lose this game just from the position it's gotten to. Especially if they have like any other kind of follow-up here. Don't think we path quite yet. I think we do path at the end of turn here. Yeah, I appreciate that. I have a feeling this is going to get countered. Doesn't. Interesting. Bounce. Oh, okay. Sure. They're Magmax and Cole. Opponent with a lot of kill spells in hand. No, I just prefer giving credit to people whose deck lists are deck lists, you know? Feels like they have a TT they're debating whether they want to deploy. This is one of those situations where you just bolt the Snapcaster Mage. Like, I'm very fine playing a long game against this deck as long as they don't have pressure on the table. Puh! I still feel like they're the Boyle version. Still be Snapcaster Mage, sure. Good grief. To see a billion cards. Stop doing things. There you go. Don't think this particularly matters, but... So you're saying we're dead. Cool. Maybe I was supposed to fire off the spikes there. That's a tough one. That is a tough one. Maybe I'm supposed to fire those off there, but I really just don't like exchanging resources with my opponent until it's like one final flurry. It's one of the annoying things about playing against Jeskai or blue-red over, say, something like Uro or traditional blue-white, is it just... They have that capability of just... Agreed, rookie pick. But there's a little bit of a different dynamic between like facing blue-white control or Esper control or Uro piles than against Jeskai Snapcaster Mage or Blue-Red Snapcaster Mage. You know, a lot of the blue-white decks or the Uro piles have to tap mana during their main phase at some point. Whether it be Omnath or Uro or Jace or, you know, all those kind of cards. The only thing the blue-red or Jeskai mages are tapping out for are like 2 mana plays. Like Cleansing Wildfire or Thing in the Ice. Or they're tapping for something like Experimental Frenzy. Platinum Imperion package. I can't remember the name of the card. Well, the same thing with blue-red. We just literally got burned out because, you know, maybe I was supposed to path that Snapcaster Mage earlier. You know, they're just different things. There were mistakes, a couple different mistakes in that matchup that might have cost me games, or choices that might have cost me games. This hand's close with the one-lander. I think on the draw, this is a hand you keep with the 2/1 drop creatures and the Lava Spike, but this is certainly a hand that could be a mulligan. Certainly a hand that could be a mulligan. The other weakness of this hand is there's no interaction for no mistakes, just happy accidents. I try to look, when I'm playing decks, especially ones that I know well, I try to look for play lines that I took that were either incorrect or mistakes, things that happened that were within my control, rather than trying to blame it on variance or flood out or whatever. You know, like, don't get me wrong, you do lose some games to flood and such, and that's just, you know, the nature of the beast. But sometimes there are choices and playing patterns you can make. Like the other thing was getting cute with the Lava Spike on one as opposed to looks like we're up against Jeskai. Delightful. Okay. Or it could be blue-red. Hard to say. Yeah, I was going to play this, hopefully draw out like a remand or something. Yep. That was a little bit cute, but I had no reason to play the second land. Okay, looks like they might be blue-red. Snapcaster Bolt. Yep, sure. I do think we take the opportunity to unload on our opponent here. So we actually have a very interesting decision here of, do I go face with everything and try to race the Snapcaster, or do I kill the Snapcaster, waste a spell, but keep stuff around for a turn? I'm going to start off with Lava... Okay, so they're just auto-passing, sure. I'm going to kill the Snapcaster just to keep their beatdowns to a minimum here. Opponent crying because we kept a sketchy one-lander. Well, when you play a deck a lot, it's like, you know, you generally know what your opponent's likely plays are, instead of worrying about necessarily what your play lines are. Cleansing Wildfire. Okay, put Remand back on the top of the deck, sure. Kind of a weird sequencing, but, you know, whatevs. Fetch land also potentially insulates us a little bit against... why are we seeing Cryptic Command? Oh, it must have been a Goblin Guide trigger. Obviously, there's some consideration to not fetch to be able to trigger, whatchamacallit. So I guess we play Eidolon here. It probably just dies or gets countered, but it's whatever. Opponent's getting to the point where they could have 2 counter spells up. No, I don't think it was Lurrus time yet, because we know they have Cryptic Command. The problem here is we can't really do anything because we know they likely have Cryptic and Spell Snare still in their hand. Want to do this before the snare resolves, that way they can't snap snare. Logic Knot? Oh man, cool. Opponent with the millions and millions of counter spells. We have to play that so we can threaten both Lurrus and Boros Charm in a turn sequence. Sure. Sure. That's one way to clear the deck. I guess. Maybe they don't feel they have enough answers yet. No need to play out Goblin God here. You know, there's a world of difference between being at 17 and being at like 7 in this kind of a matchup. Well, I know. But we don't know what those cards are. You know, there's a good chance some of them are counter spells, but... with 3 Mystic Sanctuaries. Nah, they're control players. They like to dirtle. Nothing we can do about it, Kirk. Nothing we can do about it. Presuming this is going to get bolted. Right. Sure. Yeah, I mean, we can watch out for certain things all we want, but there's nothing we can do about Cryptic Lock. Proceed to discard. Okay. So crying about burn players and you have main deck Aethergust. Okay. Yes. Opponent knows we have the one Boros charm. Do you have a second counterspell? Sure. 3, 4. Well, I mean, it's kind of where we have to make our move with Luris. Don't think this is going to resolve, but we're not going to get a better window. Okay. Sure. All right, so I think we bring in the Roiling Vortexes. Probably bring in Surgicals just to screw with their Snapcaster Mage plan a little bit. Board out the Searing Blazes. We board out one Seal of Fire. One Skewer the Critics. So, curious. Is it really disingenuous to wish someone good luck just because you're playing Burn? Do ba doo ba doo ba doo boo boo. All right, shall we play? Mulligan this hand, mulligan this hand. So looks like we're off to the 1 and 4, unfortunately, but you know, it is what it is. Pretty reasonable hand. Put back that and doo ba doo ba doo ba doo boo boo. Question is, what is the other thing we're putting back here? We saw a spell snare out of them, but I think we're more likely to see bolt out of them than we are spell snare here. So I'm going to take the gamble that we get Roiling Vortex down on one. Alright, looks like they have a snare. Oh, just an opt. Okay. Might be looking for Force of Negation. We're just continuing to fire off the spells. Surgical Extraction, obviously very awkward with Roiling Vortex going, but maybe I wasn't supposed to board in both together. Passing turn. Yep, guess we gotta let that go. Figure they'll bounce the Eidolon. Yep. Not really surprised there. Yep. Sure. No need to main phase anything here. Not letting them use all their mana this turn. Sure. Multiple copies of spells there. Sure. I'm not going to slam that into an Ether Gust. I am really curious why control players are so... Some control players are so bent out of shape against playing against Burn. They're usually the ones that cry butthurt whenever they see a red mage. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Boom, 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 boom. So how's everyone doing tonight? Hope we're enjoying our gleeful, enjoyable opponent as they're doing the thing. And yes, Kirk, the graveyard hate in this particular build is surgical. That is one of the things that Bosseidon brings to the table. Primarily because it's good against Uro in particular. So. Well, unfortunately, his time won't run out. He will kill us before time runs out. I'm perfectly confident of that. I'd almost thought he was trained by Teferi. Okay, cool. Let's do. Oh, I had every intention of making him sit there. So, quick wrap up on this deck. So, the issue with like this particular build of Burn, you know, we saw it in a couple different matchups. There really wasn't any particular hate for prowess. Some people mentioned we could have brought in Hushburner, which is a perfectly fine card. Surgical is great for the Uro matchups and like blue-white control and such, and the deck we're about to play, Oops All Spells. However, it's pretty bad against decks that are pressuring your life total with bolts and snapcasters. So I still think it was right to bring it in both matchups, but I don't know that Surgical is the best hate if you're expecting to run into Blue Moon and Blueless Moon, whatever. One blue opponent was quite nice. The other blue opponent was, well, it was a pleasure. But as far as the deck, I do apologize to Bosseidon that we couldn't give it a better run. But, you know, that is one of the things with Burn sometimes, is sometimes you just can't pick your opponents. And, you know, I do think, you know, regardless of our personal etiquette opinion of our second opponent, the fact that they were main decking Ether Gust and the fact that both decks were main decking multiple copies of Spell Snare, kind of hard for Burn to fight through that when a deck can match Burn's efficiency and have a better long game. So, one of the issues with Burn sometimes, we do run out of resources at points if we can't finish them in that initial flurry. And especially against counterspell decks, one of the things with the Burn variants that exist now is they are a little more sorcery speed. With Skewer the Critics and Seal of Fires and Rift Bolts and Lava Spikes. We play a lot at sorcery speed, a lot more than we used to, and then boarding in things like Roiling Vortex. We are kind of vulnerable to a boatload of counterspells. And, the card we used to go to in situations like that, Exquisite Firecraft, just isn't that great with Ether Gusts floating around in those very same decks. So, once you go past turn 5, 6, 7, if you can't finish them off with a flurry at the right spot, then you're kind of, what's the word? SOL. So, not the best finish, but, I did think that gives a pretty good rundown of the control matchups. One versus a pleasant opponent, one versus an unpleasant opponent. Regardless. So, going to wrap up the thing here on YouTube, and we'll be moving on to All Spells for the next league.